This is Captain America, the issue that came out on the 318th of June. Blue Shield breaks out. War on Wheels. I remember the War on Terror, but I don't remember the War on Wheels. This issue is... Oh, before I forget, and check out Cap's great new headgear. This issue is another Marky Mark J classic entitled Justice is Service and Service is Justice. Here are two members, well, one member and one ex-member of the Serpent League of America. The main one here is Deathly Adder, who is hands down the most interesting, the most competent, the most badass, as you Americans say. This character is a mute assassin, and he is the definition of a cool, snake-themed bad guy. He just survived a motherfucking crash largely unscathed. Let's see Ferdinand do that. Then he tries to hail a taxi, and there is some awkwardness because he cannot speak and tell the driver where he wants to go. Nowadays, he would be fine. He could just get an Uber. But then it turns out that the taxi driver is Scourge, who executes Deathly Adder, and we lose the second best member of the Serpent League of America. Scourge is a murderer that was at large in the Marvel Universe in apostrophe 86, and he would show up for a page or two of random comics and usually kill a bad guy. They were often bad guys that were either considered incredibly lame or ones who had not appeared in quite a long time. It was deck clearing disguised as a story and a crossover. This one, Deathly Adder, it is considered by many to be a display of fair play. Marky Mark created Scourge and had him murder a bunch of other people's bad guys. So here, he offers up one of his better ones as another victim. After this, we cut to Avengers House, where we have a scene that is one of many that encouraged me to be more interested in the Avengers as a team. We would always have these little references to the Avengers in Marky Mark's Captain America, and I would see characters like these crop up, and well, all four of these are on my Dream Avengers team, and I wonder how much of my Dream Avengers team was dictated by issues of Captain America. Captain America is moving into Avengers House full time. So here we have Seaman and Hercules Man. They're helping him lug his possessions around. If you are curious for placement with Avengers, I would put this just after the Kronos story. Wasp's costume, it is a variable that you often have to disregard. You have to allow her to go back and forth between her many, many different costumes a lot. This is all building up the new status quo of Captain America being more mobile and his adventures actually covering a wider range of America than just Manhattan. Then we have our bad guys for this issue. Blue Shield, who I will explain in a bit, and Firebrand. People have really criticised this scene and the depiction of Firebrand, and I want to counter all that. Firebrand is an Iron Man villain, and quite a major one at that. Firebrand is meant to be like a civil rights radical. He was an activist who became a terrorist and an extremist, sort of. He was meant to be like evocative of the Black Panthers, which feels a bit iffy to me. I don't want to crib from Wikipedia too much, but his first appearance has this great speech that fills in the blanks for what exactly his beliefs and whatnot are. There is some actually interesting stuff on the Wikipedia page though. Discussion about his origins, and they kind of reinforce what I am going to eventually say about his depiction in this story. That ultimately he is a bad guy, and that he may wrap himself in idealism, but those ideals are not that rigid. Like, he will happily endanger the innocent people that he thinks he's fighting for. Before I get to that, I have to say I have not read those Ard Firebrand stories. He didn't appear much at all after the Bronze Age. I did, however, read his most recent appearance before this one, which is during the Rhodey Rhodes era of Iron Man. The main thing I know is that he won the War of the Supervillains. Probably because there were only like 5 villains in that flippin' war. By the way, I don't often look at Wikipedia pages before videos to pass off information as my own knowledge. I only did it in this case to better get an understanding of Firebrand's ideals and beliefs, since I am going to actively talk about it now, and I didn't want to just assume what he stood for. People say this story is out of character for Firebrand, and that it ignores his politics and his very distinct motivations. Firebrand is attempting to unionise a bunch of low-tier bad guys like Blue Shield to hunt down Scourge before any more of them are killed. The issue that people have is that Firebrand would A. not consider himself a bad guy, B. not align himself with other bad guys, and C. not form a union. Something to consider is Firebrand was a byproduct of the 60s. His idealism and his politics were a response to stuff in the 60s. This Captain America comic came out in 1986. I would suggest that Firebrand's beliefs and the upholding of his principles could have very likely declined by the mid-80s. Furthermore, it is possible, and I would like to think it is, because it is unlike Marky Mark to so blatantly ignore a big bit of continuity like that. It is possible this is commentary on 60s and 70s radicals who by the mid-80s had totally sold out. I try to be as unbiased as I can with Marky Mark comics, which is hard because I love them. But he needed to communicate it better if this characterization was intended as an actual point. I do find I say that a lot with his stuff. I like to believe he has these undercurrent themes and ideas, like subtly critiquing the decadence of idealists, and that people don't get it because he doesn't proudly boast it in the script. We will see more of Firebrand next issue, but right now our main thing is Captain America's van having this corny ability to switch from blue to red, and I would assume white as well. You would want to go all out with this feature and have all three of the flag colours. The main thing is him battling Blue Shield. Here we have the reunion of these two. They have history together. And this time, Blue Shield has gotten himself a much neater costume than he used to have. There is often a trend in comics where a character gets a much better redesign and it exists only for their final appearance. Blue Shield comes from the days of the search for Steve Rogers. He was, alongside Kazar, one of the SHIELD super agents. He was this terrible character dressed for a roller disco, and that was all he had. He was also a double agent who was exposed and then beaten to near death by a woman. That is his entire history covered, really. Very, very minor character. And maybe this issue could have improved his standing slightly if it ended another way. But, oh wow. And check out Cap's great new headgear. Even with Blue Shield having a better looking design, it can't really save him from being an incredibly novelty bad guy. He's still using rollerblades. But one thing that I think this did, through the scene with Firebrand and through the bit where he encountered Steve Rogers, and then even during this fight, I think the most constructive thing done with Blue Shield isn't the redesign, but giving him a personality. He is a total shit. And if you were curious, he rejected and mocked Firebrand's pitch and thinks that if he encounters Scourge, he can handle him all by himself. Famous last words, as the issue ends with him hitchhiking away, but the person who picks him up is Scourge, who then shoots him dead. I love this issue. I think it is a great little story between stories. I often find myself defending Scourge victims and saying that they deserve better. But Blue Shield probably did deserve to be offed. Deathly Adder is a completely different kettle of fish. Or kettle of serpent. Good issue, good comics. I give them thumbs up ×7.